So let's get reading, Story Fellowship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the hell? 858. What the hell?
Hey, watch your mouth, man.
Well, it's part of the chapter.
Oh, that's the name of the chapter. Oh, what the HEL?
So it's HEL question mark.
Nice.
I stood alone in a snowstorm on Bunker Hill. My exhaustion was gone. Jack had returned to pendant form around my neck. None of that made sense, but I didn't seem to be dreaming. I felt like I was really in Charlestown, just across the river from Boston, standing right where my fourth grade school bus had dropped us off for a class trip. Gauzy curtains of snow swept across the brownstones. The park itself wasn't much more than a white field dotted with bare trees. In the center, a gray obelisk rose into the winter sky. After my time in Garod Fortress, the monument looked small and sad. Thor had said I'd be sent where I needed to go. Why did I need to be here? And where were my friends? A voice at my shoulder said, "Tragic, isn't it?" I hardly flinched. I suppose I was getting used to strange Norse entities popping up in my personal space. Standing next to me, gazing in at the monument, was a woman with elven pale skin and long dark hair. In profile, she looked heart-achingly beautiful, about 25 years old. Her ermine cloak shimmered like a snowdrift rippling in the wind. Then she turned toward me, and my lungs flattened against the back of my rib cage. The right side of the woman's face was a nightmare. Withered skin, patches of blue ice covering decayed flesh, membrane, thin lips, overrotten teeth, a milky white eye, and tufts of desiccated hair, like black spider webs. I tried to tell myself, okay, this isn't so bad. She's just like that guy, Two-Face from Batman. But Two-Face had always struck me as kind of comical, like, come on, nobody with that much facial damage could be alive. The woman in front of me was very real. She looked like someone who'd been stuck halfway through a door when a devastating blizzard struck. Or worse, some hideous ghoul who would try to transform into a human only to get interpreted in the middle of the process. You're hell. My voice sounded like I was 5 years old again. She lifted her skeletal right hand, brushed a tuft of hair behind her ear, or the stub of frostbitten flesh that might once have been an ear. I am hell, she agreed, sometimes called Hela, though most mortals dare not speak my name at all. No jokes. Magnus Chase, who the hell are you? What the hell do you want? You look hella bad. I was expecting more bravado. I was fresh out of bravado. The best I could manage was not running away, shrieking. Wind gusted around hell, lifting a few flakes of blackened skin from her zombie forearm, and swirling them into the snow. Well, what do you want? I asked. I'm already dead. I'm an Harji. I know that, young hero. I don't want your soul. I have plenty of those already. I called you here to talk. You brought me here? I thought Thor Thor. I thought Thor, the god of Scott. If you want someone who can navigate 170 channels of HD content, go to Thor. If you want someone who can accurately send people through the 9 worlds, he's not your guy. So I thought it was high time we talked. My father did mention I'd be seeking you out. Yes, he gave you an exit strategy, Magnus. Surrender the sword to your uncle, remove it from play. This is your last opportunity. Perhaps you can take a lesson from this place. Bunker Hill. She turned toward the monument. So only her mortal side was visible, sad and meaningless. Another hopeless battle, like the one you're about to engage in. Granted, my American history was a little rusty, but I was pretty sure they didn't build monuments at the site of sad and meaningless events. Was Bunker Hill a victory? Wasn't Bunker Hill a victory? Americans holding off the British at the top of the hill. Don't fire until you see. She fixed me with her milky zombie gaze, and I couldn't make myself say the whites of their eyes.
Ooh.
I couldn't make myself say the whites of their eyes. For every hero, 1,000 cowards, say Hell. For every brave death, 1,000 senseless ones. For every Enhardy, 1,000 souls who enter my realm. I think Travis is getting on, by the way.
Yeah, just let him on. Welcome, Travis.
Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Whites of their eyes.
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
we can hear you. For every hero, 1,000 cowards in hell. For every brave death, 1,000 senseless ones. For every Enhardy, 1,000 souls who entered my realm. She pointed with her withered hand. Right over there, a British boy of your age died behind a hay bale, crying for his mother. He was the youngest of the regiment. His own commander shot him for cowardice. Do you think he appreciates this lovely monument? Then there, at the top of the hill, after their nation ran out, their ancestors threw rocks at the British, fighting like cavemen. Some fled, some stayed and were butchered with bayonets, which were smarter. She smiled. I wasn't sure which side of her mouth was more ghastly, the living zombie or the beautiful woman who was amused by mascara. No one ever said the whites of their eyes. She continued, that's a myth, made up years later. This isn't even Bunker Hill. It's Breed's Hill. And though the battle was costly to the British, it was an American defeat, not a victory. Such is human memory. You forget the truth and believe what makes you feel better. Snow melted against my neck, dampening my collar. What's your point? I shouldn't fight. I should just let Stuart free your brother, the big bad wolf. I merely point. Now, options, Hell said. Did Bunker Hill really affect the outcome of our revolution? If you face Stuart tonight, will you delay Ragnarok or hasten it? Charging into battle is what the hero would do, the sort of person who ends up in Valhalla. But what of the millions of souls who live more careful lives and die peacefully in their beds at an old age? They ended up in my realm. Were they not wiser? Do you really belong in Valhalla, Magnus? The words of the Norn seem to spiral around me in the cold.
You okay?
Wrongly chosen, wrongly slain, a hero Valhalla cannot contain. I thought about my hallmate, TJ, still carrying his rifle and wearing his Civil War coat, charging up hills day after day in a series of endless battles, waiting for his final death. At Ragnarok, I thought about half-born Gunnarsson trying to stay sane by earning PhDs in literature when he wasn't going berserk and smashing skulls. Did I belong with those guys? Take the sword to your uncle, Hel urged. Let events unfold without you. This is the safer course. If you do so, my father Loki has asked me to reward you. The skin on my face burned. I had an irrational fear that I might be decaying from frostbite, becoming like hell. Reward me? Helium is not such a terrible place, said the goddess. My hall has many fine chambers for my favored guests. A reunion could be arranged. A reunion? I could barely speak the words. With my mother, you have her. The goddess seemed to consider the question, tilting her head from the living side to the dead. I could have her. The status of her soul, of everything that she was, is still in flux. How? I don't know. The prayers and wishes of the living often affect the dead, Magnus. Mortal has always known that. She barred her teeth, rotten on one side, pristine white on the other. I cannot return Natalie Chase to life, but I can unite you both in helium if you wish it. I can bind your souls there so that you will never be separated.
Oh, that's a dirty promise.
You can be a family again. I
That's
tried to imagine that. My tongue froze in my mouth. You need not speak, Hel said. Only give me an indication. Cry for your mother. Let your tears fall, and I will know you agree. But you must decide now if you reject my offer. If you insist on fighting your own Bunker Hill tonight, I promise you will never see your mother again in this life or any other.
What the heck? That's
Wow.
cruel.
I thought about my mother skipping stones with me at Hofston's Pond. Her green eyes sparkling with humor. She spread her arms in the sunlight, trying to explain what my father was like. That's why I bring you here, Magnus. Can't you feel it? He's all around us. Then I imagined my mother in a cold, dark palace, her soul be bound for eternity. I remembered my own corpse in the funeral home, an embalming relic, dressed up for display. I thought about the faces of the drowned souls swirling in Ron's neck. You are crying, Hel noted with satisfaction. Then we have a deal. You don't understand. I looked at the goddess. I'm crying because I know what my mother would want. She'd want me to remember her as she was. That's the only monument she needs. She wouldn't want to be trapped, preserved, forced to live as a ghost in some cold storage underworld. Hel scowled, the right side of her face wrinkled and crackling. You dare. You want bravado?
Bravado.
Bravado. I pulled my pendant from its chain. Jack, the sword, stretched to full length, his blade steaming in the cold. Leave me alone. Tell Loki we have no deal. If I see you again, I'll cut you right down the dotted line. I raised my voice. The goddess dissolved into snow.
Ooh.
My surroundings faded. Suddenly, I found myself balanced at the edge of a rooftop, 5 stories above a stretch of asphalt. 59, the terror that is middle school.
Middle school, huh?
Before I could
Wow.
plummet,
Middle
Yeah.
school.
before I could plummet to my death, someone grabbed me and pulled me back. Whoa there, cowboy, Sam said. She was dressed in a new pea coat, navy blue this time, with dark jeans and boots. Blue wasn't my favorite color, but it made her look dignified and serious, like an Air Force officer. Her headscarf was freckled with snow. Her axe wasn't at her side. I guess it was tucked in the back.
Hey, John, I'll be back.
All right, cool, man.
Dennis,
said
I'll
I'll
be
be back.
back.
Okay,
Thanks, bud.
in the backpack,
sure.
over her shoulder. She didn't look surprised to see me. Then again, her expression was preoccupied. Her gaze stuck somewhere in the distance. My senses started to adjust. Jack was still in my hand. For some reason, I didn't feel any exhaustion from this recent slaying of the giant sisters. Below us, the patch of asphalt was not exactly a playground, more like a holding area between school buildings. Instead, the chain link fence, a few dozen students huddled and clicks.
Hmm.
CLIQUES.
Yeah, clicks, like popularity clicks, the jocks, the computer
Yeah.
nerds.
Yeah. Chatting in doorways or pushing each other around an icy pavement. They looked like seventh graders, though it was hard to be sure with everybody in their dark winter coats. I willed my sword back into pendant form and returned it to its chain. I figured I shouldn't be walking on the roof of a school with a broad sword. Where are we? I asked Sam. My old stomping ground. Her voice had a bitter edge. Malcolm X Middle School. I tried to imagine Sam down in that courtyard, mingling with those cliques of girls. Her headscarf, the only splash of color in the crowd. Why did Thor send you back to middle school? I asked. That seems especially cruel. She smirked. He actually transported me home. I appeared in my bedroom just in time for Jid and Phoebe to barge in and demand to know where I had been. That conversation was worse than middle school. My heart sank. I'd been so focused on my own problems, I'd forgotten that Sam was trying to balance a normal life on top of everything else. What did you tell them? That I'd been staying with friends. They'll assume I meant Marion Shaw, rather than three strange guys. She hugged her arms. I told Phoebe I tried to text her, which is true. She'll assume it was her fault. Phoebe is hopeless with phones. Actually, Jotunheim just has no reception. I try not to actually lie, but I hate misleading them after everything they've done for me. They worry I'm going to get in trouble. They worry I'm going to get in trouble. Turn out like my mom. You mean a successful doctor who liked to help people? Gee, that would be terrible. She gave me an eye roll. You know what I mean. A rebel. An embarrassment. They locked me in my room, told me I was grounded until doomsday. I didn't have the heart to tell them that might be tonight. The wind picked up, spinning the old metal roof fans like pinwheels. How did you sneak out? I asked. I didn't. I just appeared here. She gazed down into the courtyard. Maybe I needed a reminder of how it all started. My brain felt as rusty as the roof fans, but one thought gained traction and started to spin. This is where you become a Valkyrie. Sam nodded. A Valkyrie. Sam nodded. A frost giant. He'd gotten into the school somehow. Maybe looked for me. Maybe hunting some other demigod. He wrecked a few classrooms caused a panic. He didn't seem to care if there were mortal casualties. The school went on lockdown. They didn't know what they were dealing with. They thought some crazy human was making a scene. They called the police, but there was no time. She slipped her hands into her coat pockets. I taunted. The giant insulted his mom.
Yeah, take a drink, man.
Sam nodded. A frost giant. He'd gotten into the school somehow, maybe looking for me, maybe hunting some other demigod. He wrecked a few classrooms, caused a panic. He didn't seem to care if there were mortal casualties. The school went on lockdown. They didn't know what they were dealing with. They thought some crazy human was making a scene. They called the police, but there was no time. She slipped her hands into her coat pockets. I taunted the giant, insulting his mom, that kind of thing. I lured him up here to the roof and she looked below us. The giant couldn't fly. He landed right there on the asphalt and shattered into a million shards of ice. She sounded strangely embarrassed. You took on a giant single-handedly, I said. You saved your school. I suppose, she said. The staff, the police, they never figured out what happened. They thought the guy must have fled the scene in the confusion. Nobody noticed what I'd done, except Odin. After the giant died, the All-Father appeared in front of me, right where you're standing. He offered me a job as a Valkyrie. I accepted. After my conversation with Hel, I didn't think it was possible for me to feel worse. The loss of my mother still stung as painfully as the night she died, but Sam's story made me feel bad in a different way. Sam had brought me to Valhalla. She lost her place among the Valkyries because she believed I was a hero like her. And despite all that had happened since, she didn't seem to blame me. Do you regret it? I asked, taking my soul when I fell. She laughed under her breath. You don't get it, Magnus. I was told to bring you to Valhalla, and not by Loki, by Odin himself. My pendant heated up against my collarbone. For an instant, I smelled warm roses and strawberries, as if I had stepped through a pocket of summer. Odin, I said, I thought he was missing. Hadn't appeared since you became a Valkyrie. He told me to say nothing, Sam shivered. I guess I failed in that too. The night before you fight with Seward. Before your fight with Seward, Odin met me outside my grandparents' house. He was described as a homeless guy, a ratty beard, an old blue coat, a broad-brimmed hat, but I knew who he was. That don't sound good.
That's a lot of sirens.
But I knew who he was. The eye patch, the voice. He told me to watch for you, and if you fought well, to bring you to Valhalla. Down in the courtyard, a period bell rang. The students headed inside, jostling and laughing for them. It was a normal school day, the kind of day I could hardly remember. I was wrongly chosen, I said. The Norns told me I wasn't supposed to be in Valhalla. That you were, Sam said. Odin foresaw it. I don't know why the contradiction, but we have to finish this quest. We have to reach that island tonight. I watched the snow erase footprints in the empty yard. Soon there'd be no more trace of the students than there was of the frost giant's impact from the 2 years ago. I wasn't sure what to think about Odin choosing me for Valhalla. I suppose I should have felt honored. The All-Father himself thought I was important. He had chosen me, no matter what the Norns said. But if that was true, why hadn't Odin bothered to meet me in person? Loki was bound on a slab for an eternity. He found a way to talk to me. Mimir was a severed head.
Severed head.
He made the trip, but the All-Father, the great sorcerer, who could supposedly bend reality just by speaking a rune, he couldn't find the time for a quick check-in. Hell's voice echoed in my head. Do you really belong in Valhalla, Magnus? I just came from Bunker Hill, I told Sam. Hell offered me a reunion with my mother. I managed to tell her the story. Samara reached out as if to touch my arm, then apparently changed her mind. I'm so sorry, Magnus, but Hell lies. You can't trust her. She's just like my father, only colder. You made the right choice. Yeah, still, you ever do the right thing, and you know it's the right thing, but it leaves you feeling horrible. You just described most days of my life. Sam pulled up her hood. Were I become a Valkyrie, I'm still not sure why I fought that frost giant. The kids at Malcolm X were terrible to me. The usual garbage. They asked me if I was a terrorist.
Oh,
They yanked off my hijab. They slipped disgusting notes and pictures into my locker when that giant attacked. I could have pretended to be just another mortal and gotten myself to safety. But I didn't even think about running away. Why did I risk my life for those kids? I smiled. What? She demanded. Somebody once told me that a hero's bravery has to be unplanned. A genuine response. A genuine
a genuine response.
a genuine response to a crisis. It has to come from the heart without any thought of reward. Sam Hoff. That somebody sounds pretty smug. Maybe you didn't need to come here. I decided. Maybe I did. To understand why we're a good team. Oh, she arched an eyebrow. Are we a good team now? We're about to find out. I gazed north into the snowstorm. Somewhere in that direction lay downtown Boston and Long Wharf. Let's find Blitzen and Hearthstone. We've got a fire giant to extinguish.
You want to take a break? Your throat sounds raw. Take a drink. Fire giant to extinguish. Nice. Just need to make a giant candle snuffer.
Number 60. A lovely homicidal sunset series.
Ah, fun.
Blitzen Hearth was waiting for us outside the New England Aquarium. Blitz had scored a new outfit, of course, all colored, the cheeks, a yellow ascot, and a matching yellow pith helmet with yellow sunproof netting. My wolf hunting clothes, he told us cheerfully. He explained how Thor's magic had transported him where he most needed to be, the best department store in Nidlevar. He'd used his Savitov Express card to charge a number of expeditionary supplies, including several spare outfits and a retractable bone steel apron. Or harpoon.
Harpoon. Okay, I was going to say an apron.
Would have been funnier, huh?
Yeah, it would have been funnier. He's a cook now and a stylist.
Not only that, Blitz said, but the contest scandal with Junior, it backfired on the old maggot. Word got around about how badly he failed. Nobody is blaming me anymore, or the horsefly, or anything. People started talking about my stylish armor designs, and now they're clamoring for product. If I live through tonight, I might get to start my own clothing line after all. Tim and I both congratulated him. Though living through the night did seem like a pretty big if. Nevertheless, Blitz was so happy I didn't want to bring him down. He started bouncing on his heels, singing sharp dressed dwarf under his breath. As for Harv, he'd done a different kind of shopping. He was now carrying a polished staff, of white oak. At the top of the staff split into a Y like a slingshot. I got the feeling, I didn't know how, that a piece was missing between the two prongs. With his staff in hand, Harv looked like a proper sword and sorcery elf. Except that he was still wearing black jeans, a leather jacket over a House of Blues t-shirt, and a candy striped scarf. Harth rested the staff in the crook of his arm, and explained in signs how he ended up at Murmur's well. The capo had pronounced him a full master of cedar, ready to use a sorcerer's staff. Isn't that awesome? Blitzen clapped him on the back. I knew he could do it. Hearthstone pierced his lips. I don't feel like a master. I've got something that might help. I reached in my pocket and pulled out the runestone Prithro. A couple of hours ago, I had a conversation with Hell. She reminded me of everything I'd lost. I told them what the half-zombie goddess had offered me. Ah, kid, Blitzen shook his head. Here I've been going on about my new clothing line, and you had a deal with that. It's okay, I assured him. Strangely, it did feel okay. The thing is, when I appeared on Bunker Hill, I just used my sword to kill two giantesses. I should have passed out or died from exhaustion. I didn't. I think I know why. I turned the runestone between my fingers. The longer I'm with you guys, the easier it gets to use my sword. Or heal, or do anything. Really, I'm no magic expert, but I think somehow we're sharing the cost.
Whoa.
I held out the room for Hearthstone. I know what it feels like to be an empty cup, to have everything taken away from you. But you're not alone. However much magic you need to use, it's okay. We've got you. We're your family. Hearth's eyes rimmed with green water. He signed to us. At this time, I think he actually meant I love you and not the giantesses are drunk.
It's funny how you can confuse the giantesses are drunk with I love you.
He took the rune and set it between the prongs of his new staff.
Oh, like this.
The stone snapped into place the same way my pendant did on its chain. The symbol, Prethro, glowed with a gentle gold light. My sign, he announced, my family's sign. Blitzen sniffled. I like that. A family of 4 empty cups. Sam wiped her eyes. Suddenly I felt thirsty. Alabas, I said, I nominate you for the role of anything, sister. Shut up, Magnus. She straightened her coat, shouldered her backpack, and took a deep breath. All right, if we're done with the family bonding, I don't suppose anyone knows where we can find 2 dwarves with a boat. I do. Listen, fluff his ascot. Hearth and I scouted it out before you got here. Come on. He led the way down the pier. I think he just wanted us to appreciate how well he swaggered in his new yellow pith helmet. At the end of the long wharf, across from the closed for the season kiosk for whale watching tours, another kiosk had been cobbled together from plywood, scraps, and cardboard. Appeared boxes, appliance cart boxes, blah, blah. My God,
On appliance cart boxes.
appliance boxes,
Yeah,
cardboard appliance boxes.
cool.
Above the service window, a slopingly finger painted sign read "Wolf Watching Cruise. Tonight only, one red gold per person. Children under 5 feet."
Wolf watching cruise. That's
And
awesome.
red gold per person. Children under 5 feet. Stirring in the booth was a dwarf who was definitely less Savital and more maggot. About 2 feet tall, he had so much facial hair it was impossible to tell if he had eyes or a mouth. He was dressed in a yellow rain slicker and a captain's hat, which no doubt protected him from the dim daylight and also made him look like the mascot from a Nomish lobster restaurant franchise. "Hello there," said the dwarf. "Bajalar at your service. Care to take the cruise? Lovely wolf spotting weather." Bajalar, Blitzen's face sagged. "You wouldn't happen to have a brother named Bajalar? Right over there." I wasn't sure how I missed it, but docked a few feet away was a Viking longship fitted with an outboard motor. At the stern, chewing on a piece of jerky, sat another dwarf who looked exactly like Bajalar, except he wore grease-stained coveralls and a flappy-brimmed felt hat. "I can see you've heard about our exceptional service, right?"
Yep.
Bajalar continued. "So can I put you down for 4 tickets, once a year opportunity?" "Excuse us a moment," Blitzen steered us out of earshot. "Those are Bajalar and Gajalar," he whispered. "They're notaries. Thor warned us." Sam said. "We don't have much choice." "I know, but Blitzen wrung his hands. Bajalar and Gajalar, they've been robbing and murdering people for over 1,000 years. They'll try to kill us if we give them any opportunity. So basically," I summed up, "they're like pretty much everyone else we've met. They'll stab us in the back, split,
There it is.
shredded, or strand us on a desert island, or shove us overboard into the mouth of a shark." Park pointed to himself, then tapped a finger to his palm. "I'm sold." We marched back to the kiosk. I smiled at the homicidal lobster mascot. "We'd love 4 tickets. 61. So how many times was that?
That was like,
3.
I think 3 so far.
So 3. So 1. The 2 more chapters.
Maybe one more. Just like I said, I gotta get off at 7:15 the latest. 7 really. You got 10 minutes. Can you do it in 10?
I think so. There's only like 4 or 5 chapters. Pages.
Okay.
Heather is my new least favorite flower. 61. I didn't think anyone could be worse than our fishing expedition with Harold. I was wrong. As soon as we left the harbor, the sky darkened. The water turned as black as squid ink through the haze of snow. The shoreline of Boston morph into something primeval,
Primeval.
the way it might have looked when Skirner's descendant first sailed his longship up the Charles. Downtown was reduced to a few gray hills. The runways at the Logan Airport turned to sheets of ice floating on open water. Islands sank and rose around us like a time lapse video of the last 2 millennia. It occurred to me that I might be looking at the future rather than the past.
Shoot.
The way Boston would appear after Ragnarok. I decided to keep that thought to myself. In the quiet of the day, Gajalar's outboard motor made an obscene amount of noise, rattling, growling, and coughing. Smoke as our boat cut through the water. Any monsters within a 5-mile radius would know where to find us. At the prow, Bajalar kept watch, occasionally shouting warnings to his brother. Rocks to port, iceberg to starboard. Kraken at 2 o'clock.
Kraken.
Kraken
Wow.
at 2 o'clock. None of that helped calm my nerves. Stuart had promised we would meet tonight. He planned on burning my friends and me alive and destroying the 9 worlds. But in the back of my mind lurked an even deeper fear. I was about to meet the wolf at last. That realization dread of every nightmare I've ever had about glowing blue eyes, white fangs, feral snarls in the darkness. Sitting next to me, Sam kept her axe across her lap, where the dwarves could see it. Blitzen fused with his yellow ascot, as if he could intimidate our host with his wardrobe. Hearthstone practiced making his new staff appear and disappear. If he did it right, the staff shot into his hand out of nowhere, like a bouquet. As a
What was it?
bouquet, Bouque.
Oh, like a bouquet.
Okay, yeah, like a bouquet of flowers, spring loaded in a magician's sleeve. If he did it wrong, he goosed Blitzen or walked me upside the back of the head. After a few hours, a dozen self-induced concussions, the boat shuddered like it hit a cross current from the bow. Bajalar announced, "It won't be long now." We ventured and pitch black bag. Bless you. Gee, I looked at this inky wave. Why do they call it that? The clouds broke, the full moon pale. Oh crap, I hope I'm going to be able to finish.
Keep going.
Full moon pale and silver peered down at us from a starless void. In front of us, fog and moonlight wove together, forming a coastline. I never hated the full moon so much. Lengivi Czar announced, the Isle of Heather, prison of the wolf. The island looked like the caldera of an ancient volcano, a flattened cone maybe 50 feet above sea level. I'd always thought of Heather as purple, but the rocky slopes were carpeted with ghostly white flowers. If that's Heather, I said, there sure is a lot of it. Bajalar crackled. It's a magical plant, my friend, used to ward off evil and keep ghosts at bay. What better prison for Fenris Wolf than an island entirely ringing with this stuff? Sam rose. If Fenris is as big as I've heard, shouldn't we be able to see him by now? Oh no, Fajalar said. You have to go ashore for that. Fenris lives beyond in bound in the center of the island like a runestone in a bowl. I glanced at Hearthstone. I doubted he could read Fajalar's lips behind that bushy beard, but I didn't like the reference to a runestone in a bowl. I remembered the old other meaning of Perthro, a dice rolling a cup. I didn't want to run blindly into that caldera and hope for a yacht. When we were about 10 feet from the beach, the keel of the boat ground against the sandbar. The sound reminded me unpleasantly of the night my mother died. Our apartment door creaking just before it burst open. Out you go, Fajalar said cheerfully. Enjoy your walking tour. Just head over the ridge. There, I thought, you'll find the wolf well worth the trip. Maybe it was my imagination, but my nostrils filled with the smell of smoke and wet animal fur. My new and hardy heart was testing the limits of how fast it could beat. If it hadn't been for my friends, I'm not sure I would have had the courage to disembark. Hearthstone leaped over the side first. Sam and Blitzen followed, not wanting to be stuck on the boat with Lobster Dwarf and his jerky-eating brother. I swung my leg overboard and the waist-deep water was so cold I imagined I would be singing
Soprano.
soprano for the rest of the week. I slogged onto the beach, and a wolf's howl split my eardrums. Now, sure, I'd been expecting a wolf ever since childhood. Wolves had terrified me, so I tried my best to gather my courage. But Fenris's howl was unlike anything I'd ever heard. A note of pure rage, so deep it seemed to shake me apart, breaking my molecules into random amino acid and icy runoff. Safe in their boat, the two dwarves crackled with glee. I should have mentioned Fajalar called to us. The ridge back is a little more expensive. All your valuables, please. Gather them together in one of your bags. Toss them to me. Otherwise, we'll leave you here. Blitzen cursed. They'll leave us here anyway. That's what they do. At the moment, heading inland to confront Fenris Wolf was very low on my wish list. At the top of my wish list was cry and plead for the treacherous dwarves to take me back to Boston. My voice quivered, but I tried to act more courageous than I felt. Get lost, I told the dwarves. We don't need you anymore. Fajalar and Galajar exchanged looks. Already their boat was drifting further away. Didn't you hear the wolf? Fajalar spoke more slowly, as if he didn't hear intelligence. You're stuck on that island with Fenris. That's a bad thing. Yeah, we know, I said. The wolf will eat you, the Fajalar cried. Bound or not, he will eat you. At dawn, the island will disappear and take you with it. Thanks for the lift, I said. Pleasant trip back. Fajalar flung up his hands. Idiots, suit yourself. You'll collect your valuables from your skeletal remains next year. Come on, Fajalar. Back to the docks. We might have time to pick up another load of tourists. Fajalar revved the motor. The longship turned and disappeared into the darkness. I faced my friends. I got the feeling they wouldn't mind another rousing speech like, "We're a family of empty cups and we will dominate." "Well," I said after running from an army of dwarves, facing a monster squirrel, killing the 3 giant sisters, and butchering a pair of talking goats. "How bad can Banner's wolf be?" "Very bad," Sam and Blitz said in unison. Hearthstone made 2 OK signs, crossed them at the wrist, and flicked them apart. The sign for awful. Right, I pulled my sword from pendant form. The blade's glow made the heather look even paler and more ghostly. "Jack, you ready?" "Dude," says the sword. I was forged ready. Still, I get the feeling we're walking into a trap here. Jewel of hands. I asked my friend, "Is anybody surprised by that?" Nobody raised their hand. "Okay, cool," said Jack. "As long as you realize you'll probably all die in agony and start Ragnarok. I'm done. Let's do this." 62, the small bad wolf.
We'll end it there, guys.
Yeah.